Hey guys, it's your girl Sunshine Z and we're here to do another video. Thank you so very much for clicking on this video and subscribing to my channel. If you have not had a chance to subscribe, please go ahead and do so now because I'm going to have more videos like this coming your way. Also, make sure your notifications are turned on. And this is going to be the first story that I'm going to have for my segment of Their Story. So I really hope you guys listen, learn, and enjoy it. Thank you. In 1999, siblings Catherine and Curtis Jones, ages 13 and 12, were arrested and charged as adults for first-degree murder for the death of their stepmother, Sonia Spites. The authorities alleged that the children murdered their stepmother in a fit of jealousy and rage due to her relationship with their father, and alleged that the children were upset because the attention they once received was no longer being given to them and it was being shared with Sonia Spites. However, that couldn't have been further from the truth. Catherine and Curtis were your average 12 and 13-year-old children. They went to school, they had friends, they loved the Nintendo games, they loved music, everything children back in 1999 enjoyed, that was pretty much them. However, like so many children back then, and also unfortunately children today, they were being abused. Catherine and Curtis resided in the home with their father, their stepmother, and a male family relative. Catherine confided in her father that that male family relative, who was also a sexual offender, a convicted pedophile, was molesting her. He did not believe her, and he took no action, and he was allowed to remain in the home. Catherine also confided in a teacher at school who also alerted the authorities, the Department of Children and Families, who came out and did a thorough investigation and were able to discover that the children were indeed being abused and that there was a convicted pedophile living with them. However, no action was taken by the Department of Children and Families to remove the children, to ensure that they were safe, or to force that family member out of the home to make sure that the children were no longer being abused. Catherine then confided in her little brother Curtis as to what was going on with her, and he believed her story, and that is when he also confided in her that not only was she being abused, but he was being abused too, because that male family relative that was in the home, he also shared a room with little Curtis, which is completely disgusting, but let's just keep moving. The children felt at that point that their backs were against the wall. They told people, they reached out for help, there was interventions, but absolutely none of the adults involved saved these children, protected these children, or aided these children. So they felt as if the only way out of this situation was to just eliminate the person that's doing the problems and the people that are allowing the abuse to keep going. So they came up with a plot to do just that. However, on the night of January 6, 1999, Sonia Spites was in the home with both children, and they decided to put their plan in action. Little Curtis picked up his father's handgun and he shot her one time. Little Catherine picked up the gun and she shot a few times as well. The children began to get scared. They began to panic and realize that they had made a big mistake and it was not really what they thought it was going to be. And so they tried to straighten up the area and they ended up fleeing the house and went to a friend's house for help, which they didn't receive any help. And so they ended up fleeing to nearby woods, and that is where the police located them the next morning and took them into custody. Now, as I stated in the beginning, the children were immediately charged as adults and they were charged with first-degree murder. The children were then coerced into pleading out for a charge of second-degree murder, and they never had a chance to go to trial. They never had a chance to have the jury listen to their side of the story or hear things from their perspective. They also never have the chance for the evidence located from the Department of Children and Families to be presented to the jury as well. These children were then sentenced to 18 years in prison and a life of probation, and thrown in jail to have the key locked away for 18 years. I'm bringing you guys this story because this story has always touched my heart. I found out about it in about 2015, and I did a lot of research, and I was appalled at how the justice for these children just never came and how they were mistreated and essentially railroaded. Number one, that male relative should have never ever been in the home. He should have never been near the children, let alone sharing a room with little Curtis. And the moment that they spoke up and said, hey, something is wrong, I feel as though their father should have taken immediate response and immediate action to make sure that that guy was far away from his children. And in the event that, hey, he was unable to do it, I feel as though the stepmother, who was also their guardian in the home at the time, should have stepped in and forced him to do so, or at least try to help the children in some way or form or fashion. If she's unable to do it, the teachers came involved. The Department of Children and Families, who's also paid, that is their jobs, they are paid to go out, investigate these situations, and find out if something's going on. They were able to find out something was going on and made note of such, but never took any actions to help the children. So I feel as though ultimately the state of Florida failed these children in the most horrific way. Instead of them receiving love and guidance and help, they were simply thrown in jail. And these children were not just some murderous children. That's not true. They didn't want to hurt anybody. They simply wanted the person that was hurting them to stop hurting them. And they tried in several different ways to get help. And I feel that ultimately, had that help been rendered to the children when they asked for it and when they tried to get it, none of this would have ever happened, and Miss Spite's death could have definitely been prevented. Now, I am not excusing the actions of the children in regards to taking a life, because Miss Spites was a mother and her daughters ended up having to grow up without her. However, I do feel as if the situation would have been handled properly, none of these things would have occurred. Miss Spites would have never been murdered. The children would have never had to be put in jail. Also, I don't mean to bring in race. I'm not trying to make this a race factor, but we have seen in several cases all over the world that children of other nationalities have done the exact same thing, and in some cases they've done even worse things. And the only thing that they've had done was a probation, a slap on the wrist, or they've been put in jail until they turn 18 and they were allowed to be released. I personally feel like that might have been the best option for the children, because they were minors. They should not have been charged as adults. There's no reason why you should charge them as adults, because they were children. I feel as though they should have probably been sentenced to stay in jail until their 18th birthday and then released and given some sort of help. I also feel that since they did go ahead and serve their sentence, and since we do now know what happened and the extent and the full story of what took place with those children, I think they deserve reparations. I really do. I really do. I feel as though they should be paid X amount of $1,000 for each year that they had to stay in there. And the reason I feel that way is because the adults, yet again, every single adult that these children came in contact with, that these children reached out to, did nothing. And when you are in that situation, only a person that has been abused as a child will understand the confusion, the anger, the rage of someone violating you, and then you try to tell, and the people that are supposed to be there to help you, they don't help you, they do nothing, and they continue to let this person stay around you and continue to abuse you. At this current time, it's 2018. Both Catherine and Curtis were released in 2015, and thus far they've gone on, from what I can see, to live productive lives and be very good members of society. They have not been in any trouble. They have not caused any problems, and they are not all over social media making noise and making a ruckus. These children, not children, they're not children anymore, but these now adults who had to grow up in prison and enter prison as children were now back into society, and now they have to completely stay on the straight and narrow for the rest of their lives for a mistake that they made when they were children, and a mistake that could have been prevented had the adults in the situation been adults and handled things as adults should. I suffered from being abused as a child as well, and yes, I will admit that I contemplated several different times on killing my abusers. I thought about putting bleach in drinks. I thought about taking baseball bats and beating them upside the head while they were asleep. And I know that this sounds brutal, and I know that this sounds very bad, but once again, unless you were an abused child, you will not understand the confusion, the fear, the rage, the anger of being violated over and over again. And fortunately for me, in my case, I was raised around a lot of religion, so I was able to use prayer and music to help me to cope and to help me to keep going, and I never ended up following through with that plan. However, everyone else doesn't always have that. Everyone else doesn't have that religion. Everyone else doesn't have that inner strength to use music or whatever else it is that they like to do to block out that pain. I really, really feel as though these children, well, not children anymore, I keep saying this, but these children, they were given a raw deal. I really feel as though that information should have been presented to a jury, and they should not have been coerced into a plea deal. And the reason I say coerced is because when you deal with children and they feel like they are in trouble, children sometimes will say any and everything to get out of trouble. So if you, as an adult, present to them that going to jail for 18 years and pleading second-degree murder will make it easy and make all of this go away, the children will go ahead and say so. And I believe that is exactly what happened, because had the children understand the extent of how long they really were going to be in there and what exactly they were signing up for, I don't think they would have agreed to it. So yes, I say coerced, and I feel as though the lawyer that represented them should have brought that forth. Now, I did read online that he said he was never told about these things, and he had no idea until later on when it came out in the media. And I feel like this: if you were a lawyer, it was your job to get as much evidence and as much things as you can to use to defend them and help them. Not tell them to plea out, but you should have asked probing questions. And then again, if you claim you asked those probing questions and they did not come forth, I still don't put the blame on the children, because at that point, once again, they had told everybody that they thought could possibly help them, and absolutely nobody helped them. They tried to help themselves, and now they're in trouble. So that would make a child feel like, hey, there's no reason maybe I shouldn't say anything about it if they don't ask me about it, because nobody's going to help. This is where this whole thing stemmed from. I bring this story forward because I want children out there to know that if you happen to be listening to me right now, I understand what you're going through, and there are so many people out there just like you who are going through something like that, or who have went through something like that, and you can get through it, you can survive it, you can come out and still be a great person, and that there is help out there. There's networks, there's different agencies that support and help children and advocate for children's rights, because as a child you do have rights. And please speak up. Find an adult that you trust. Even if you don't feel like you can't tell your parent, please find an adult that you trust and that you know will help you. Maybe an aunt, maybe an uncle, maybe a cousin. Find someone that can help you and take you in and get you away from that situation. And also, I want to speak out to parents. Parents, I understand we do the very best that we can, and it does not come with the manual. We do not have a step-by-step book to help us to be great parents. We learn as we go. But when your child comes to you and tells you that someone is hurting me or violating me or doing something to me that does not make me feel good, I need you guys to take action. I need you guys to listen. Even if the person that they're telling you did it to them, you don't believe that person could ever do something like that. That's not here or there. When that child comes to you, it is your job to listen. It is your job to put a plan in action. It's your job to protect, because at that time they are crying out for your help. And situations like this can occur when people, and especially young children whose minds are not completely developed just yet, feel as though they're back against the wall and they've tried to get help and nobody has come. I really hope and pray that Curtis and Catherine live the rest of their lives happy and free and as productive citizens of America and as society. I wish them the very, very best, and I am so very sorry that they had to go through this. I really hate that it had to go this way, because it did not have to. And also, to the other children that may be listening to me as well, there's hope for you. Please don't give up. And also to Miss Spite's daughters, I do send my condolences as well, because I understand that you guys had to grow up without a mother, and for that I am sorry, and you did not deserve that. I mean absolutely no disrespect to anybody that I have discussed in this video, and I pray that everyone can find peace and happiness in the very end. And thank you guys so very much for listening to this story. Please drop down in the comments and let me know how you feel about this. If there's any cases that you like for me to bring forward and explain, I'm willing to do that. I want to do that, because I do not want these cases that involve our young children to be swept under the rug and forgotten, and for them to live their lives thinking that they have shame on them and no one cares and nobody knows their story. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.